Hey everyone, I know it's preseason, so best champions is a little bit weird. So this video is going to be different. I picked 2 champions per role that are really good, and then 3 for each that are a bit different. New builds to try for those champions that are strong and have come up recently, stuff you might not know about. Let me know what you think of this, and if you have any cool builds yourself as well. And if you want to check, by the way, for any champion what you should build and runes and stuff like that in preseason, then all of this is coming from u.gg. You know as well the stat shards, right? The new thing for preseason that lets you pick which you want. Those are all updated on the site as well. So if you just search for the champion, it will tell you what stats are working best for them as well. AD carries are kind of getting pummeled in the preseason by the support at this point. Like regen isn't really as good, and there is way more fighting because of the plates. I still think Lucian is the best, and you have the choice now of Kleptomancy or Pressy Attack. So Pressy Attack is still going to be like default. I think it's really good to bully with and get off more damage early to like win your lane a bit harder. Klepto versus weaker lanes is amazing though. If RNG is on your side, then you can get like 2 kills worth of gold from it, plus all the pots and everything just during the lane phase. Lucian is in like every game, and Poke is really good against him. Either Poke supports like Zyra, for example, or a Misfortune. So you push a little bit, you kind of make him cue the wave instead of you, and then that's on cooldown, so you slap him with your poke and he can't really fight back. The runner-up for me is going to be Misfortune. It is Dark Harvest. It's part of why Misfortune is so dominant again, but if anything, the Dark Harvest rework is actually better for her now than it was before. You have a lot of upfront burst damage anyway with your Love Tap and your Dust Bait, so getting them to below half health isn't really a problem, and then you finish them off with Dark Harvest, and like even your ultimate can proc this. It's nuts. Ideally, you kind of want to take these short trades and keep them below 50% health, so you can keep stacking your Dark Harvest. Like you have your Love Tap and your Q bounces for that and stuff, and then you wait for those cooldowns before you carry on fighting. So when you're against her, like if you keep up the pressure consistently, she can't really do that, and you come out on top. Let's look at some new builds. So Kleptomancy Vayne. This can work really well or really badly. If you want to see a gameplay video of this or something like that, then let me know, because it's actually really fun. Basically, you can proc Kleptomancy twice with 1 tumble. If you auto attack and while that's in midair, you tumble, your first auto connects and it actually consumes a charge of it, and then your tumble auto uses the second charge. So it's a little bit hard to do, and it's hard to use sometimes, like if you're against a harder lane, but if you can, you get so much gold. You use the 2 stacks every single time you press Q, and you definitely snowball from it. Another newer pick is Kog'Maw. It's a lot better at the moment, especially like mid to late game, thinking like 3+ items because of the new Rage Blade. You have the percentage armor and magic penetration, so his like Blade the Ruined King, his Wit's End, his W percentage damage, his auto attacks, they all do more damage, and it makes him like way more deadly late game. Last new one is Jhin with Dark Harvest. We've seen this a little bit, and the win rate is pretty good at the moment. He doesn't trade that badly in lane, so he can get the stacks by keeping them below 50%. Also, because you have a lot of AD, especially from your passive, you end up feeding the Dark Harvest AD ratio even more, so it scales much better. Mid lane next has a bunch of new stuff. It's the role that has changed the most, except at the very, very top. Kassadin is still there, but there's 2 main things with this. You can take double defense rune shards if you want to. You don't have to, but it helps against harder matchups. And because lane phase lasts a bit longer, you can go back to double stacking now like we had before when Kassadin was completely broken. This is getting tier, Rod of Ages, and then Archangels afterwards. You stack both, and it makes your mid game like improve a ton. The problem is it's slow. It has to stack, and before that, you're not very strong. You can get punished. But with this game, how it is with bounties and catching back up as well, you can get away with it. Second place is going to be Lissandra. Took a little hit to her laning phase. It's kind of like you lost the mana passive, right? So you can't push as hard and you can't bully, but your new passive is amazing for team fights. It's just not that good for 1v1. That is kind of the amazing part. Your passive does so much damage, and if you get 1 kill, it definitely helps you get another afterwards. It's not quite as bad though. You can like basically just push her in now and poke her and make her use abilities on minions, and she won't have the mana to use them on you afterwards. But still, if she gets off her aftershock, she just doesn't die. First of our new picks is going to be Pyke. So remember those Pyke buffs? They nerfed his whole kit at a base level, but they made everything scale with lethality. Well, turns out when you do that, on top of the buff that execute damage anyway, it makes him pretty strong, even as a mid laner. Versus anything immobile or like lower health, like an Orianna or something like that, it works so well. Almost 1 hook will mean they die outright, and then you have amazing roams and damage after the lane phase. Another new one that you've probably seen or heard of is Karthus at the moment. He's a bit of a monster for sure, but Dark Harvest is making that way, way worse. It's even at the point, and I'm not saying you're supposed to do this by the way, but you can die for Dark Harvest stacks. You can pretty much in and you'll still win the game because it is that strong after like maybe just 2 items buffing it up. Katarina is again a similar idea. A lot of people call this, you stick a reset damage keystone Dark Harvest on a reset champion, and it makes perfect sense. The damage can proc from her ultimate, and she can use the reset to help finish off the next person and chain them together and just pick up a ton of kills. Jungle, I just want to say 2 things. So Dark Harvest definitely works on junglers. Even with this new stacking system, it's perfectly fine. And number number 2, Talia jungle is nowhere near as good and probably not worth playing anymore. So the best jungler in the preseason for me at the moment is Kha'Zix. Was already pretty good before this. He got a few buffs recently. I think the main one was like his isolation damage. The AD ratio was doubled. Basically, you stick the new Dark Harvest on him, kind of similar to Katarina a little bit, where he uses Dark Harvest to one-shot somebody, then gets a jump reset with Dark Harvest as well, up to try again on somebody else. You can still punish him early game, so that's kind of the way to do it, really. But if he gets a few items, he'll be fine. He carries harder than most right now, and he can actually solo carry even a bad team. Another one a lot like that is our runner-up. So Shaco is very similar. The new Dark Harvest just seems to have amplified how good he was in the first place. It kind of feels like with this, if you have some kind of damage, like you build a Dust Spade as well, then that gets them below 50%, and then Dark Harvest kicks in, and they're basically dead. You also take Ignite on Shaco, unlike a lot of other junglers, which can proc Dark Harvest, and you normally use that at lower health pools as well, so it massively helps. A new one we're seeing a lot more of that's actually pretty good is Elise with Dark Harvest. I swear not all junglers are Dark Harvest junglers, but Elise is definitely better because of it. It really helps a one-shot combo, and the thing is, she really needs that to work. If she can't, she's pretty much useless. She does have the damage to get them low enough, like that's for sure, but she can't always like pull through and finish the job, which is where Dark Harvest comes in. So Amumu also has this insane build at the moment. If you go Cinderhulk into Abyssal Mask and then liandries, your tears literally burn everybody. Liandries is so busted anyway at the moment, but it is a ton of AoE damage while being very tanky and having a beast team fight with a lot of damage. The final jungler that we're going to look at is Wukong with Dark Harvest. He's definitely made a comeback more with the new version of Dark Harvest for the same reasons as Kha'Zix kind of. It's even better than before though, in my opinion, because now your ultimate could proc this. Like, and if you proc it as your ult in on one person, you kill them. You could in theory proc it a second time with the same ultimate on somebody else that you catch. Support is so important at the moment. They're often kind of like the controllers of the bot lane. I think there's so much damage flying around, crowd control, and that's often the reason you're going to get some tower plates as well. The best one is going to be Zyra at the moment because of her plants. It sounds very obvious, right? That's the entire idea of Zyra. I'm not that stupid, like I promise. There is actually two parts. So the first thing is they apply liandries, and they ramp up the damage as well. So they burn and they dish out way more damage than before, and that is why we're going to rush this item, and it was recently buffed. The other part is now plants also apply Dark Harvest if you take that. So seriously, your plants basically do all the damage themselves. They have the burn, they have the Dark Harvest. It's just way too good. That means that we're going to bump Thresh down to our second spot. He still has the crowd control. He's one of the best kill lanes, but I don't think he's overall the best anymore. There are loads of really good champions, like Pyke is really good. Zyra brand will mess him up with the damage and make life a lot harder. So he's still good. He's just not like ridiculous. So I'm going to hate myself for this if I get paired with loads of Lux supports, but she's actually using Dark Harvest and it's actually working. It makes her poke more deadly with the extra damage that you bring, and then mid game as well, she stands more chance to snipe and combo people down with even less gold. It's not just Lux, but it kind of like sums it up, I think, because she's actually pretty good. Poke with Dark Harvest seems to be the new thing bot lane, basically, and it's brutal. Taric is a very tanky mofo anyway, but if you add in Shield Bash, the new rune, it makes that even worse, and he survives for even longer. He'll do more damage, especially with his passive, which is actually a really underrated part of his kit. He has a ton of ways to proc it as well, and he's just winning a lot more. Brand's the last one we're going to look at. Is the same as Zyra really, but he even has his passive that can proc Dark Harvest on top of liandries and everything else because it's the burn and damage over time. The damage is kind of stupid at the moment, both like all in and your poke. It's the same reason why it would work mid lane actually, but AD carries can't survive his combo anyway, and then you add in more damage from Dark Harvest, and surprise, they die even quicker. Last up is going to be top lane, and the best one we're going to look at is Jax. He seems to be like the best top lane in preseason right now, and it's the Essence Reaver build that is dominating most of the time. So when he pops his ultimate, he just becomes unstoppable with the reduced cooldown, so he just smacks everybody, he jumps more, it's great, but there are loads of different things you can buy, like depending on the game. The new Rage Blade also helps with the percentage damage for both sides, and you do have a lot of mixed damage, but let's also not forget that he demolishes towers anyway, which gives him even more gold. So runner-up is going to be Viktor. I'm surprised it's not actually Shield Bash Viktor. You can if you want to, it's really good, but Mana Flow and Transcendence normally wins a little bit more. I'm going to make a wild guess that this has something to do with the new Kleptomancy being much better, which allows him to get even more gold from the lane phase and be even more oppressive. His damage is stupid once he gets a few items, but he's getting more gold from towers, and if the lane phase is lasting a bit longer, that is more time to stack Kleptomancy, which is kind of like a stealth buff. Speaking of that as well, actually, Klepto Fiora is really good at the moment and wins a lot more. It's pretty top tier actually with that keystone compared to like Conqueror or Grasp. There are two reasons it's better. So you have the two charges, right? And you can lunge and you can auto for both of them, which is like your standard way to trade. Or you can even just press E for 50% attack speed with the next two auto attacks, and both of them will be using Kleptomancy stacks, which is insane synergy. A lot of people call this one as well Teemo with Dark Harvest and liandries. Kind of like how Brand was burning people, Teemo is using his poison to proc both of them. He's still not that great early game actually. You can harass, but it's more about getting like a lot of AP, and then late game your shrooms with Dark Harvest are even worse than they were before. And the last last one we're going to look at is Riven with Kleptomancy. Same idea as Fiora. You trade damage for gold with your keystone. It's not like crazy optimal because you normally only auto once between each like ability, especially with your Q and stuff. But I guess you can kind of work around that. The thing is, like, it didn't used to be this good. It's always been a kind of a thing, but the win rate has definitely gone up since the new preseason patch. And I think it's something you do versus like weaker lanes. So there you go. A little bit different. I always focus more on the newer picks that we're seeing and builds and stuff. But hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Check out u.gg for any builds you want to look up for the preseason. But for now, I'll leave you with robots.